with you, Reverend Peterson, if I may. You said some pretty contentious things about all this. What is your view about the verdict?
Well, first, this case was not about race at all. And what happened, you have the race hustlers and poverty pimps like Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, and others who turned it into a race issue in order to gain power and wealth. And you also have Barack Obama jumping into it by saying that if he had a son, he would look just like Trayvon Martin. And I thought that was insane for him to make that type of comment. He only did that because he wanted to incite the anger of black Americans and others. This case is about overturning stand your ground laws and also about more gun control law, getting more gun control law passed. And it's about Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, NAACP and others using black Americans by dividing the races, intimidating white people in order to gather more power or get more power and wealth.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, though. If, for argument's sake, the Facebook billionaire owner, Mark Zuckerberg, who is famous for wearing hoodies, had he been walking exactly where Trayvon Martin was at 7 o'clock at night on a rainy, dark night, and George Zimmerman had seen him, do you think that he would have reacted exactly the same way? Got out of his car, pursued him, reported him, and then got into a struggle which ended up with him shooting him dead?
If the situation that happened with Trayvon and George had been the same, yes, it would have the same outcome. I imagine that the same outcome would have been the same. But the question
you really think George Zimmerman would have looked at a young white man in a hoodie and thought the same thing, that this guy is potential trouble?
Well, George Zimmerman would have done whatever it took to protect himself. It didn't matter to George Zimmerman the color of the man. And this notion that Trayvon Martin was some little innocent kid tiptoeing to the tulips and George Zimmerman had nothing else to do but to go out and kill him is a lie. It's an absolute lie. And I think that for the people to mislead, that are in control of this issue, to mislead America in that manner are very dishonest people. Trayvon Martin was a thug. His parents know that. You know that. I know that.
And the folks who sat in on the jury
and heard that know that as well.
Don't put words into my mouth. There's very little evidence that Trayvon Martin was a thug. The only evidence we have of him ever being violent was in the altercation with George Zimmerman, a much older man who had got out of his car to follow him, ignored directions to follow him, and then got into an altercation. And if you listen to the parents, they'll tell you that Trayvon Martin was clearly, he felt in fear of his own safety. Where are his rights for self-defense?
Trayvon Martin was an example of what happens when these black boys and girls are raised in single parents household. And if Trayvon Martin was such a good little kid tiptoeing through the tulips, why did they work so hard to keep his history out of the courtroom during the trial? If he was a good guy, they would have been happy to present that evidence, but they kept it out because they knew that Trayvon Martin was a thug, and that's what it was all about. He was a pot smoking. He had been thrown out of school several times.
Are you saying that everyone that smokes pot in America is a thug, are they?
Well, you know, there were pictures on his Facebook page of Trayvon Martin holding on to a gun, pots of pot in front of him. This wasn't a good little kid. And
how do you know what he was like? How do you know? I mean, you're saying that everyone in America that has ever taken cannabis or ever been pictured with a gun is a thug. Is that your conclusion?
Before they took his information off of his Facebook page, it was out there for everybody to see.
Where was the evidence that he was a dangerous thug?
I'm sorry?
Where was the evidence that he was a dangerous thug?
He was not. He had been in trouble before. He was not some little innocent kid.
So you keep saying. Let me get a Raymond Santana. Let me get a Raymond Santana, because I find that quite offensive, what I've just been listening to, because there's no hard evidence that Trayvon Martin was a thug in the way that he's saying,